Kill List, which is a homegrown horror movie from Ben Wheatley, who made Down Terrace, which was very interesting. Down Terrace, when we reviewed it last year, it would have been, which is described as sort of like being a British crime drama that was, closer to Mike Leigh than to Guy Ritchie. It was one of those things that sort of seemed to have a sort of kitchen sink social realist black comedic edge to it, but was essentially about a crime family. It was very interesting and very, a very strange off-kilter tone that made some of the scenes in it, pretty intense. There is the same sense of intensity about Kill List, which is a genuinely surprising film. And it does is essentially it is a horror film. If you look at the poster, for example, the poster pretty much describes it as being a full-on horror movie. But it is a film which overturns the conventions of horror in the same way that Down Terrace overturned the conventions of the British crime drama. At the start, we meet two characters. One of them is a bloke who apparently hasn't worked for 8 months because of a bad back. He has a young child and a wife. His wife is losing patience with the fact that he hasn't worked. They're facing terrible financial troubles. A friend of his comes round with his new girlfriend. They have one of those incredibly painful dinner parties dinners that you would have in a Mike Leigh film, in which everything seems to be bordering on the brink of violence. There is, people are having conversations in which they're saying one thing but they're meaning something else. Then everything explodes, and effectively his friend says, look, you have to come back to work. You've got to come back and work with me because you need to get the money that will get your life back in gear. His wife wants him to go back to work, at which point it becomes apparent that the work they do is that rather than being travelling salesmen, they are in fact hitmen. And so they decide to go back out on the road and do their hitman work again, whilst all the time appearing to be travelling salesmen. Now, I have to say there wasn't a lot of the movie that we could clip for the obvious reasons. Here is a clip of them as hitmen checking into a hotel like travelling salesmen. Oh no, I beg your pardon, we're not going to do that clip. We're going to use the clip in which they are then having a meal, and on the table next to them, some people next to them start enjoying themselves in a way which is annoying to arty friends who are pretending to be travelling salesmen but are in fact very dangerous people. Here's a clip.
Right.
I just wanted to say thank you to Justin. His teachings have helped me put everything in perspective. I haven't had an anxiety attack in 3 weeks.
Don't listen to that. It's like a graveyard.
I thought you could intersect with the group.
I'm going to kill him, Gal.
Don't kill him, mate.
I am. I'm going to massacre that table of people now. In a hotel. And I ain't going to shoot them, Gal. I'm going to do them one at a time, or I'm going to do them slow.
With a butter knife?
Yeah.
We should have a song. Okay, shall I get the old guitar?
You're expecting Jeremy Beadle, aren't you? But he's dead, he can't help
He's
you.
not going to play that guitar in here, is he?
Christian soldiers are
giving me indigestion.
Oh, sorry.
Apology accepted.
Sometimes God's love can be hard to swallow.
Yeah, not as hard as a dinner plate.
God loves you.
Does he? Well, tell God from me, if you're the type of people he hangs about with, stay out of my way.
We were saying before about comedy horror being a hard trick to pull off, which it is. Realist horror is an even more difficult trick to pull off. Now, in terms of, if you were looking at this as a horror film, as a straight horror film, you'd say that the things it was inflected by, the things that it draws on are Angel Heart to some extent, Wicker Man, obviously. There is even, surprisingly, a particular riff in it which chimes with something from a Serbian film, although in an altogether different way, and I won't say what it is because it would give it it would blow a very important point. But so it is connected in odd ways to a range of movies which have clearly a horror reputation. However, it's probably more useful to say that it does for horror what Shane Meadows did for the revenge drama with Dead Man's Shoes. I mean, to say that it's a claustrophobic drama is to understate just how much you feel trapped within it as the action escalates. Effectively, what happens is you sit there watching the film thinking this is about to explode, it's about to go off in ways which feel really uncomfortable. Some horror films try to terrify you, some horror films try to repulse you, some horror films try to shock you. The primary register of Kill List is to make you feel extremely uncomfortable and it does it with a real efficiency. Funnily enough, I was talking to Nigel Floyd afterwards. I saw it in the morning just on Tuesday, And I came out feeling pretty wrung out. And I said to Nigel, God, that was really intense. And he said, yeah. He said when he saw it, his feeling was that there was a point about half an hour in when he thought he might have to leave, not to walk out in outrage, but to walk out because the intensity of it was so great. When the MPAA, the American Ratings Board, were rating Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, they famously said to him, they said, we don't want you to cut anything, but we want you to make it less intense. So we can't tell you, don't cut that out because that's too explicit, or cut that out because that's too gory. We just want you to make the whole thing less intense. Well, Kill List is a perfect example of one of those films in which you'd be very hard pressed to say what individual element of it that it was that was making you feel quite so uncomfortable, but it does it really efficiently. I mean, there is some graphic display in it, and some of the dialogue is very, very aggressive, and there is but its primary register is this feeling of brooding, closing in threat mixed with this sort of social realism, which gives it the whole thing a really uncomfortable kitchen sink air to it. And you do genuinely buy into the drama in a way that, as things start to take, a more outrageous turn, you are completely involved in it. I was genuinely wrung out by it, and that I mean that as a compliment. I mean, I think it's wrong just to say it's shocking, it's horrifying, it's all those things, which are some other adjectives which have been used about it. The adjective that I would use about it, although it's not one that's going to end up on the poster, is deeply uncomfortable. And I mean that as a compliment.